Good evening, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us while my trains made my life hell. And just before we come on here, I said, we really have to start because we're running late. It's not we at all. It's I. It was I. But still, nonetheless, the team is here. Kenny McIntosh, the bi-weekly guest. Yeah, I didn't know where I was going there, did you? The bi-weekly guest.
That's the only buy thing I can assure you.
He's on the Roman Reigns schedule here.
Listen, the big dogs get the big bucks. Kenny McIntosh in the house. SP3 as usual by my right hand side. Literally, I think on the screen. Evening, fellas. Thank you for joining me here on Monday Night Live. ITR Clips. Kenny, how are we?
Good, yeah, good. Can't complain. Busy. I just got an email from the mag editor Dante Richardson that we're entering ITR 100 season, which means the 100 top wrestlers of the year for the magazine. So now I've got to get thinking who's good, because the problem is this year, right? Because then obviously after that we have the voting for the awards for the magazine as well. Promotion of the year, male wrestler of the year, female wrestler of the year. Male wrestler of the year is quite difficult because everybody's had a good few months, but nobody's had like a full. So it's like who's had the best amount of time in a year. So these are the things going on in my mind.
I mean, much coveted awards, by the way. There's plenty of pictures out there, guys. AEW, WWE guys, very elated to get there. Inside.
Yeah, somebody at one point said, "Oh, it's really good you Photoshop the wrestlers." Like, I promise you,
real.
It's not the stress that I go through, and then actually, there's one thing I'd love one day to tell people that was one of the worst. I can't even tell it, but it's so bad. Like, just imagine
I know the story, right?
Imagine a plaque going to the opposite place.
Yes, I know the story. I know the story. This is, to not give much away, it is a cross AEW, WWE story. One day when Kenny tells it, it is fantastic.
And it's you can't go to the company and be like, do you know what you've done? And they're like, well, we just like... So now it's like there can be no sort of like orders at the same time. So... but yeah, no, it's good though. It's just November, December are very stressful for that kind of thing.
Lessons were learned, Kenny.
Hopefully they've been learned.
I mean, it wasn't your end anyway, but still, nonetheless, it is party season with ITR Mag with the end of year awards. But that reminds me, I need to tell Dante my idea for this month's magazine. An idea I'm yet to think of, but I do need to tell him. SB3, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. That was very, very interesting to hear the behind the scenes aspect there. And since we're doing a mailbag segment at the end of the show, I'm sure no one will ask what's the real story.
I mean, who could?
But no, I'm doing well. It was a relatively not as busy weekend in wrestling, so that was nice to spend some time outside of that wrestling bubble. And it was the start of the NBA season for me, so.
Don't act
it's
like
not good. Not good. It's not a good thing.
The Lakers are fucking terrible. You and
I sports.
Yeah, Kenny's pumped.
I mean, look at him. If it's the Last Dance, I watched that. I like.
There you go. Dance. Watch the Redeem Team documentary on Netflix.
And Kenny's got Anthony Davis next to him. Look at him. Anthony Davis wrapped up all good.
There you go.
Left. Is that's some sort of basketball joke?
Exactly.
Once I've seen the Redeem Team, I'm going to be all about it.
You're going to get everything. You'll 100% get the love of Kobe Bryant that means.
Because for a second, I was going to say, because I was trying to, I didn't want to be like the Michael Jordan thing, because I was trying to, it was Scottie Pippen, right? Because he's in it as well. And I was so close to thinking of saying Scotty Goldman, because wrestling consumes everything.
And they have a similar relationship.
Yeah. Is Michael Jordan CM Punk? Who knows?
Less litigious, that relationship, sure. But still, nonetheless. Thank you for joining us, guys. We are going to get things rolling here. We're going to try some more kind of segments on this show, and we like to kick things off with what I have long considered my wheelhouse, and that is, of course, news. Let's get into some of the wrestling topics that have been dominating the headlines for the past couple of days. Before I do that, like, share, that's my way of doing the arrow, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. ITR Clips, of course, you can catch Monday Night Live every week, 8 p.m. And the Inside the Ropes YouTube channel. That is where our bread is buttered with the interviews, which is my favorite part of this job by a country mile. In the past week, we've had a chat with Logan Paul go up. And Kenny, is the Shawn Michaels audio up? It is up, right?
It's up, yeah. It is.
So make your way over there if you want to see the NXT media call that preceded an event that we are going to star rate the ladder match from tonight. SB3 is going to debut the criteria of what gets a star rating for Inside the Ropes. I mean, maybe that's a bit of a sweeping statement. For Monday Night Live, I don't want to brand the whole thing. But still, let's jump into the news, shall we? Because I feel like we will get into CM Punk. There has been a lot said from Dave Meltzer over the past couple of days. We will jump into that very quickly. But first of all, bit of news today, SB3, Elimination Chamber not in Saudi Arabia next year.
Yeah, so I don't know what that means as far as the Saudi Arabia schedule changing, but it will be in Montreal, the first time in well over a decade that they've had a pay-per-view. I believe the last pay-per-view was, off the top of my head, Breaking Point 2009. With the infamous
knowledge,
with the
Nice, off the top of the head. Come on,
I think it's something like that. It's been quite some time since they had a pay-per-view in Montreal, so it's going to be interesting. We've seen the Montreal crowd was that great crowd. They gave that reaction for Sami Zayn in that Fatal 5-Way for the Intercontinental Championship a couple of weeks back. Kind of started all this big reactions for Sami Zayn on SmackDown and Raw as of late. So I'm looking forward to Elimination Chamber being back there. But it's interesting on how that's going to rework the WWE calendar, since a lot of the news this week has been about, day one being canceled, being scrapped, and WWE going more away from more of the gimmick pay-per-views, and then want to make like big international shows like the Saudi show, like a yearly UK show for you guys. So it's very interesting what they're doing with the calendar, what 2023 has in store for us.
Yeah, what's interesting there as well, I mean, number one, I love Canadian crowds. They are, maybe the next closest thing to a British crowd, I guess, in terms of noise. I know Chicago is also famed, but he said Toronto, hooray, Toronto. We love Canada, but
I do want to say I did surprise myself, because that's actually accurate. I just looked it up. Breaking Point 2009 was Montreal.
Oh,
so,
damn!
And I only knew that. No, I only knew that because of the CM Punk finish. Remember, that was the pay-per-view with Punk, the Punk screw job over Undertaker in 2009.
Can't think of any other famous pay-per-views in Montreal, to be fair. Not off the top of the head.
Oh, no. Nothing ever happens there.
But what I will say, Kenny, man, for me, I have, as SB3 will attest, bemoaned gimmick pay-per-views for a while. I feel like it dilutes what some of these matches end up meaning. The stories that lead up to it, they're less exciting and entertaining when you know that, Hell in a Cell's coming up, so we're going to get Hell in a Cell, rather than the feud dictates, okay, we've reached the point where we need something like Hell in a Cell. Where do you sit on this, man? I look at this revised calendar, and I like it. I would rather less of the gimmicky pay-per-views personally.
Yeah, I don't really think. I think if the three of us were to sort of collectively speak to everyone we know who watches wrestling and watches WWE, I can't think of anybody who would go, "No, let's keep them all. Let's keep all the gimmick people." Like, I don't think anybody would say that. So I think it's a really good move. I mean, it is funny because as this news comes out, we just had Halloween Havoc, which was all gimmick matches, and we're about to have Survivor Series, which is gimmick matches. So maybe just like they're wanting to do all the gimmick matches before the end of 2022, and then next year it goes back. But it's funny because I actually watched for Patreon, patreon.com/Inside the Ropes. I watched Wrestle War 92 for the first time, which had that infamous War Games match with Sting's Squadron and the Dangerous Alliance. And I didn't know War Games could be good. Like, it can be really good. So that's interesting. The match went 23 minutes. So I think if the War Games that come up this year, I know I'm on an island of my own. Everyone loves War Games. Great. Everyone loves Ed Sheeran. I think he's a prick. So, I'm happy to be on an island of my own. Ed Sheeran. Do you remember that? I don't even watch Game of Thrones, right? But this angered me on a visceral level. So you're a Game of Thrones fan. And you're watching Game of Thrones. SP3 is what I'm going to say. So you're watching Game of Thrones and you're, oh, this is great. It's set in medieval times, whenever it is. And then it cuts to some fucker with a guitar. And it's Ed Sheeran in the canon of Game of Thrones Playing the if somebody came up to me and said, "We want you to be in, I don't know, Lord of the Rings or something," and we've written a part for you, I'd be like, no, make me somebody in Lord of the Rings and I'll play a part of that canon. But that prick just, I'll go in, do my whole Ed Sheeran bullshit. Singer, songwriter, pish, man. Remember in the early 2000s, you had bands and pop groups, and now you just go like, another singer, songwriter on the scene. Jesus Christ. They're like gimmick pay-per-views, get rid of them. No more gimmick pay-per-views, no more singer-songwriters.
I love how you circled it all around. That was great.
I had to find a way at the end to get it back.
He brought it back. I mean, Ed Sheeran super crowbarred into Game of Thrones, but Kenny made it make sense. What year did Sid Vicious fuck up Brian Pillman?
91.
Okay.
Yeah. I always remember 92. 92 is the GOAT. So it's not fair to compare other war games to that. I will say it's not even
because fair. I was looking this up when I was talking to Finn, and every WWE NXT War Games has been over 30 minutes. It's been 35, 45. And I just think that 23, I feel like until I die, I'm going to go, imagine just a great 20-minute match.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Who needs to go an hour? Fucking Japanese.
I can count on one hand the amount of matches that I've enjoyed upwards of half an hour. Let's say that, right? There are some in that 25 region, like Michael's Taker at Romania's, I think is that's the ballpark.
28, yeah.
25, 28. That's and Triple H, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell with Michaels, I think that's about 30. Those ones. I don't know. Sid's probably sitting there thinking, "Fucking Okada's got about 90 that I like."
Exactly. When y'all both said that, I just thought, "Damn, I gotta rethink my New Japan list."
Nah, I'm much closer to Kenny in that aspect. To me, it's the payoff, but it's really just the end of the story, which I really cared about, rather than the Matt classic. Don't get me wrong, I love great Matt work, but
I love great. Oh, fuck off! I love great mat work.
I do.
You're like me. You are a sports entertainment style wrestling fan.
No, I am. But
that's what we are. Said is out there in the trenches.
Chad Gable's going to work in NXT. I'm still enjoying it, man. I do like watching a good technical wrestler, is what I'm saying.
Do you know who you should watch? Adam Cole. He's fantastic. Really, really great.
You are a facetious young man on this Monday evening, Kenneth.
Sorry, no, Adam Cole is very good. He's just not. Look, there's things that are good. Foie gras is good. I don't want to eat it. So there's just. It's like caviar is good. Not for me. I'd rather have bag of chips.
How would you know? I've never earned enough to know what caviar tastes like. I've got to tell you.
Sorry, I've derailed it again. I'm really bad for derailing. This is why you shouldn't have me. I derail stuff. That's all I do. Because I feel like the people who are watching this, right, they don't just want us to sit there and talk straight about the news. They can listen to the game else. I'm just trying to bring something else. Sorry about that.
Most people are here for the fuck, marry, kill at the end. They're just holding on, I think. So I hope Kenny's got that teed up, to be honest. Let's move on to like that. Let's move on to CM Punk then. SB3, man, walk us through the update here, because it looks like, to the surprise of probably nobody at this stage, it doesn't look like it's going to be a happy ending for CM Punk and AEW. In fact, it looks like they're just brokering exactly how they're going to part ways.
Yeah, this came out first from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. They reported that CM Punk may be on his way out of AEW because the company is looking to buy out the remainder of his contract following the brawl out with the Elite. It was noted that AEW is still talking with Punk about a return, but it's currently doubtful that will happen, and the talks of a buyout suggest that AEW isn't looking to bring him back, and the sticking point in the negotiations is a non-compete clause, which would prevent WWE from scooping him up right away if they wanted him back or if he wanted to go back. But he's injured currently. They said that he is in no contact with anyone from WWE, but he is friends with Adam Pearce and Paul Heyman. And then Wade Keller of PW Torch, he did his audio show over the weekend where he noted that most of the AEW locker room do not want to have Punk back. They feel like the leadership void that went when he left and the Elite left have been filled by Jericho Jericho, Danielson, and Moxley. So it's kind of, he also said that many influential names in WWE wouldn't want CM Punk back, but that is something that is more likely under Triple H than it ever was.
Well, yeah, if there was a guy who would, put it to one side and probably propose something interesting to CM Punk, I would imagine it would be Triple H. But do I see that happening? I really don't.
I mean,
I wouldn't count on it.
If there's anyone in this world that you could say has a worse relationship with Triple H than Vince McMahon, it would probably be CM Punk. So if Triple H wanted to have the big coup of signing somebody, it would be.
I'm running already.
I know, really. It would be CM Punk, because that would kind of, a lot of people talk about Vince McMahon and his ability to talk to people that he's had a bad relationship with, whether it's Bret Hart coming back for the Hall of Fame, whether it's Bruno Sammartino coming back, Ultimate Warrior, the list goes on and on. Triple H doesn't have that quite yet. He's only 2 months into his regime. CM Punk would be that.
Yeah, again, so it's hard to kind of say, based on history, because really Triple H hasn't had a chance to mend that fence per se yet. But a lot of people have made the point that, okay, well, maybe taking CM Punk away from AEW has a certain amount of luster that just bringing CM Punk in from the cold from 7 years might not have had, right? Like, that people are making arguments as to why Triple H actually might consider such a move, if there's money to be made, etc., etc. I've got to tell you, Roman Reigns looks like he hates him from every interview that I've ever watched. Just looking at the landscape there, I don't think it'd be the most welcoming environment for him. Oh, for God's sake. Most environment for him. I don't know, Kenny. Where do you sit on this? Where, A, is it the right thing for AEW to cut him loose? And B, what does CM Punk do from here? Does he go into retirement, or is there one last run?
I could probably answer that question for 1 hour. So I'm going to try to really minimize everything that I would think about that. So I think that one of the things is, let's remember when Triple H and CM Punk last interacted, it was when CM Punk was offered the Triple H WrestleMania match, and he said, "I don't need a match with you, you need a match with me." That was the line, right? The AEW stuff, I feel really conflicted about it, because I do accept that Punk was a complete prick in the press conference and all that. Is there part of me that still really likes him? Yes. And I can't, I kind of like the idea that he's, you're with me, so it's like he's CM Punk, and he had, in that year run that he had, I think the only person I could compare as good a run in AEW so far would be Jericho's first year. Nobody else has had a full year like CM Punk. Like, the promos, the matches, he made it feel big. I feel that AEW has been missing something since he left. But at the same time, they had to let him go. I mean, Tony Khan should have dealt with it way sooner, and that's something that really needs to be sort of on the docket. Like, if Paige did, I know we've mentioned this 100 times, but if Paige did the promo in May, and Punk was annoyed, and then Punk came back and did the retaliation, that day they should have been in an office together going, right, we need to get on the same page. Yeah. That's what you would think a boss of a wrestling company would do, not let it fester and fester and fester and get worse. So, but he had to let him go, he can't come back based on all the stuff that's happened. So, and in the WWE thing, 6 months ago I'd have said never, but then, I mean, 2022, Steve Austin main evented WrestleMania, and it's not even one of the top 5 stories of the year. What? So, but at the same time, if anybody thinks that WWE would not do everything in their power to get CM Punk back, you're right. Because let's remember, CM Punk wanted and was open to going back in 2019. That's when he did the backstage thing. Fox wanted WWE to sign him, and they were hesitant at the time. So I think Triple H will serve a big slice of. We'll eat the shit to get him back. And the Roman Reigns thing is like, I mean, we've seen in wrestling for years people who hate each other being the best of friends on screen, because it will create a moment. So I think CM Punk, I'm going to make a prediction. I think by the end of 2023, CM Punk has headlined a WWE pay-per-view.
Wow. I mean, this is the thing. Like, if he comes back, then...
Wouldn't you love to see it?
No, I would. Like, please don't get it misconstrued. Like, I'd rather see CM Punk in a ring again than not, right? Like, I agree with everything you just said. I thoroughly enjoyed his year in AEW. I guess all the reasons for not advocating for CM Punk are things that we're not privy to, right? All of this being hard work behind the scenes and being a bit of an arsehole, which have kind of followed him around his whole career, let's be honest. It's like, those are not the things that really concern us, right? We just love the promos and the storylines and the matches. So any reason to not bring him back, I'm not going to really sit here and make an argument for that. If it happens, I'd be really happy. Just trying to be a realist and wondering, okay, what do you do if you bring him back for WWE? Because again, remember when he left and it was like, oh, you know, I wanted to wrestle. He wanted to headline WrestleMania, right? Like, what could you really bring to the table that would excite CM Punk to bring him back, right? You're probably going to have to put him on top, right? Or in the top program at the very least. Him and Roman Reigns probably could make some good money. But again, I just don't know if I see a place where CM Punk happily resides in WWE. I think he might come back and do something, sure. Very difficult for me to imagine Punk on like the Brock Lesnar schedule where he just does, like, I would love it. I really would, where he just comes in and he works with different guys. But
here's a question for both of you. Who do you think is less likely to want to do it? WWE or CM Punk?
Punk,
Easily.
definitely.
Easily. Not that he wouldn't. Not that he's closed. I don't think he's totally closed-minded to it, like you alluded to. I think he seemed more receptive, and whether that's a negotiation tactic or whatever around that time, who knows, right? With backstage and whatnot, and then AEW gets created. But it's like, he doesn't need to, which is crucial. He didn't need to do AEW. He could have just stayed. But I think we all saw with his AEW run that that's kind of when he's most alive and doing his best work. And you can't tell me he doesn't still have the itch to be like the main event in WWE, right? If Triple H comes with the right story, all right, okay, you and Roman, WrestleMania, whatever. Like, I find it very hard to believe that Punk would go, you know what? So I could see something short term. I'm just not sure of him being a fixture in a Triple H world with the sour taste of 2011 in his mouth. I'd like that. There's a lot to unpack there that we probably don't have time to all get into.
But then, I mean, I think one of the things is, if you at the press conference, I can't. Although somebody, if you're British, you'll get this reference. Said this might go over your head, but somebody said that Punk at the press conference reminded them of Alan Partridge eating a Toblerone when he has a mental breakdown, drives to Dundee in his bare feet. Yeah. So that was quite funny to think about. But the thing with Punk is, even though he was a prick at the press conference, he is going to see it that he was majorly slighted here. He's going to see it as, you know, he's been the one that's vilified. He's been the one, because the difference is between the WWE leaving is he was the hero when he left. Yep. He was everybody thinks you're the hero. He's now the villain to a lot of people. Does he care about that? Maybe not, but maybe he does. Maybe, I mean, look, if you can not be the villain anymore and you can be the hero and get paid big money to do it, and you can fuck over these guys that you feel have slighted you, it's possible.
I mean, that's a very good point, right? Like, let's say, because if he goes, presumably Omega and Bucks stay, right? Yeah, and then there might be that chip on his shoulder where he thinks, fuck you, right? Like, I will go back to WWE, make probably more money than he did in AEW. I mean, I don't know, it'd probably be close, but more money. He'd like Kenny says, he'd get that hero's welcome. It would be this, you know, it wouldn't just be that I was away for 7 years or whatever. It'd be I was away for 8, and it's like, you know, as if AEW never happened to some of those WWE fans. They're like, Punk's back.
Well, you know they're gonna do that. They literally told us for months that Cody Rhodes has been gone from wrestling gone from the business for 6 years. So I think the best argument is what Kenny said, is that spite can be a very motivational tool. And if anyone in wrestling business and wrestling history is spiteful, it's CM Punk. So CM Punk, just to spite AEW going to WWE, that's why I think it's a realistic option. The other part of me that thinks is not very realistic is that it took 3 years and CM Punk's biggest mark, his biggest fan, talking to him and begging him to come back to the business for him to come to AEW. for someone that he hates his guts and has established that he does not like Triple H at all, not even a little bit. There's never been a moment. He's had a good moment with Triple H. This man, Triple H, he felt Triple H was still upset with him that he got cheered over him in Philadelphia at Survivor Series 2006. That's the memory that CM Punk has. CM Punk remembers every single moment he's had with Triple H. It's not going to be something that happens next year. I think that's very hopeful to think that CM Punk is going to main event a show in WWE by the end of 2023. I don't see it. I can see him main eventing WrestleMania 40. If you want to put money on that, I might be interested in that offer. But 2023, I'm sorry, based on the history that these two have, it's going to take a little bit longer to me.
It's worth noting if it weren't for the pandemic, his AEW debut happens sooner than it does, right? I know we talk about the 3-year courting period with Tony.
Well, here's something I remember. Right? This is a little inside story. I remember working at What Culture with WCPW. I remember the Young Bucks were on one of the shows, and I remember they were in the back of a car, and this would have been 2017. It would have been 2017, and it was like a van, and the Bucks were in the back with a couple other wrestlers, and I was at the front with the driver, and I overheard the Bucks talking about, "Oh, Punk just texted and said he loved that match last week," and it was like even then there was a little relationship with Punk and the Bucks, and then they get to AEW, and then that took years to make that deal happen.
Yeah.
So it was in the works. So the only thing going, I mean, and I do want to say one thing about Spite, right? Just a personal story to take over the show. But like, so I mean this honestly. I mean it totally sincerely. I really care if people like me or not. I really want to be liked. I really try and be nice to people. I try and say please and thank you all the time. I try and give people time. There was a guy told me once that somebody was saying I was a prick on a Facebook group for the love of wrestling in 2019, and I was a dick. It was like, who's the nicest wrestler you've ever met? And he was like, tell you who's a prick, Kenny McIntosh. I joined the group to respond to go, I'm sorry you had a bad experience, but the Undertaker thing was happening and I was pretty much suicidal that week. So I was really not in a place to care too much about what I was just trying to like keep it together. But so that's how much I really try to like want to be liked and be a nice person, right? However, in 2013, there was a podcast called the Ministry of Slam podcast. They were doing it at the same time as Inside the Ropes. One of the guys who ran it would badmouth me to everybody all the time, but be really nice to me to his face, right? Which is fine. Then we started doing the live shows. We did DDP, we did Colt Cabana. Then they announced the NWO Wolfpack tour. And that was bad enough because I was like, oh, well, they're doing this because we're doing it. It's a complete reaction thing. Then they got in Power Slam magazine, got Sean Waltman promoting their thing, right? Which I never got to do because Power Slam ended, but luckily, who got the last laugh? However, so anyway, this guy faked a heart attack during the NWO tour because he had fucked it so badly.
Teddy Long style.
But he had badmouthed me so many times, and we did a show the next week with Sunny, who we had announced the show, and then she announced she had ovarian cancer the next week, so that sells a lot of tickets. So we then do that show, which was awful. But do you know what got me through and continued to do those live shows? Pure spite. I was like, I will make sure that we do shows that are remembered for a good way overall. Even the Undertaker thing, when it went the way that it went, I was like, we need to do more, we need to do better, we need to erase the memory of that. So spite is a very powerful thing, even if you're a nice person. I don't think Punk's a particularly nice person, so he might have even more spite than I would have. Spite's a strong thing, is my point.
I'm the same as you in the sense that like I go out of my way to be like super nice online just because I think that's a cultural issue anyway, right? Like the way it's gotten, how everyone's so comfortable being dickheads. So then it really fucking bothers me when people are like overtly nasty for no reason or something, right? Like you take it personal when you shouldn't. Like so much to the point as like I'm not going to like name names or anything, but people that I like will be like, this person's a great follow, and I'm like, they're fucking not. And like it doesn't matter that they like them.
Yeah,
I have them blocked, and I only have like under 10 people blocked, right? Because it takes a lot for me to be like, fuck you. Like mute is normally the other one.
Sid, you're laughing a bit too much. We'll pick up on that in a
No,
second.
I was gonna complete the trifecta because he reminded me of me being spiteful and holding a grudge. Not gonna name names either, but I saw Alex take a picture with someone that I have a history with, and I had my missus, who's also a very spiteful, who can be very spiteful, say like, "What the hell is your friend doing with this person?" And I had to be like, "Are you cool with him, man?" And Alex was like, "No, I don't know who that was." I was like, "All right, cool." So yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I was at Mania, and I was like, I don't even know who that guy is. Leslie 3 was like, but there was in that photo we had a mutual friend who we both love.
Yeah.
So that explains all. But yeah.
But look, the thing is, the point of this whole thing is we've all given examples. I mean, mine is more to do with a real professional grudge of somebody bad, but we all have these like smaller examples of why we have spite for various things, right? CM Punk was in a multi-million-dollar contract, felt slighted by Tony Khan, basically slated him through a whole public scrum. Then there was a fight, and then he's the one who's basically is going to be ostracized. So imagine the level of spite. I mean, if I was CM Punk, right, I would go back to WWE in a fucking heartbeat.
But that's the thing, because spite is so motivating, he also has spite towards them.
Like, who do you have more spite against?
More recent.
Yeah.
Right? Recency bias is a thing, right?
Yeah,
like it would be. Enemy of an enemy and all of this stuff.
I'm sorry. I've said it once. I'll say it again. This is the reference for Boondocks fans. CM Punk is the white stink meter. That man has hate in his heart. He has that hate, and he just wants to give it out. And I think that this man has a long memory of it as well. This man pre-rehearsed that whole rant, add it all out. You telling me he's just gonna be like, yeah, I have so much spite for AEW. You know what? I'm gonna go back to WWE. I'm gonna forget AAA. I'm gonna forget the doctor that didn't diagnose me properly. I'm gonna forget all. I'm gonna forget I was in a lawsuit with people from WWE. I'm gonna forget all of that because I'm not spiteful against AEW. No, I'm honestly gonna just think like he's CM Punk. He's going to get paid for all the years. So even if he wants to wrestle again, he probably won't be able to wrestle till well into 2023, 2024 because of his deal with AEW. And that's how a buyout works. They buy you out. They'll have a non-compete clause. That's the whole holdup in this situation. Yeah. And a non-compete clause could be a year or two. It could be the remainder of his contract. So if I'm CM Punk, I'm going to get paid for a whole bunch of years I didn't work in the business. And I'm already got money from before my last run. I'm good with the business. I'm done. I'm over it. I'm done being the bad guy. I'm done being the hero. I'm done being the martyr. I'm done with it altogether.
That's what's amusing though, right? Where it was almost like, when people made these assumptions or assertions that CM Punk was a bit of a problem or an arsehole or whatever, and it was always like, oh yeah, but he was in the big bad WWE machine. He's had time now, and he's at peace and he's in his own place and he feels better, and then the problems come back again. So
I will say this though, it is very impressive that someone can take the top spot in Story of the Year over Vince McMahon being ousted and having to retire and Steve Austin coming out of retirement. He trumped both of them. If that's not someone, and here's the thing, like I have met a few CM Punk type people in my life. Like I know the kind of person that I think I know the kind of person that he is, and I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's a very passionate guy. I think he's got very high levels of sort of like his friendship expectations are very high, and I think if you cross that, it's a complete no-go. So I think he's just someone who he won't compromise in anything of how he feels about people, and that I see how that's seen as like, so like if I was friends with CM Punk, I'd be on edge constantly.
Like, yeah. But you can also see how maybe that's played a role in the success as well. It's a double-edged sword, I guess, right? Like, having that way. We need to move along in segments here because we are going to enter. This is basically SP3 country right now. We are going to be giving star ratings on a weekly basis for matchups because SP3 has time somehow to watch every match that ever happens anywhere. The match we have picked this week is the ladder match from Halloween Havoc this weekend. Everyone, I'm sick and tired of opening Twitter and people going, Dave Meltzer said it's this match. And then you go, well, it's subjective. You sure it is, right? And we're going to have our subject right now, SB3, because what is the criteria you're going to be scoring this match by?
Okay, so me and Alex, we basically put our two criterias together and we made it one here. So one of the criterias is going to be the in-ring work, the action, the action that goes on in the ring between the competitors in the matchup, the story that they tell throughout the story. If you could tell a coherent story with the matchup, sometimes it will just be spots like the match we're going to get into. Build up to the matchup, I think matters. Is going to get you more into the matchup, more invested into everything and what happens the weeks before the matchup. The audience, the crowd, if it's in an empty arena, we saw Edge and Orton at WrestleMania 36, and then you had the difference of Hulk Hogan versus The Rock at WrestleMania 18. Totally two different matches. Probably Edge and Orton worked harder in their matchup, but Rock and Hogan had a loud ass Toronto crowd. There's a difference. And then the finish of the match, that's what matters. The aftermath, that moment at the end, and of course the occasion and platform and moment matters. That was Alex one note that he wanted to add is where it happened. If it's on WrestleMania, it's gonna feel bigger than say a random independent show of GCW.
Where you deliver matters. The occasion does matter, and to me, it does. You can't. You could be the greatest match in history if it was in my back garden. What does it matter, really? That's my opinion, anyway. So let's get into the particulars here and go by those metrics, so we can arrive at what this star rating will be. SP3. So in ring work. Let's set the scene. In fact, for Halloween Havoc. Before we get going, Louis Dangoor has a way of making his way onto this show.
Oh boy!
Did you see?
I saw the meme. I saw a meme on about Louis.
I haven't seen the meme. Where is this?
I'm gonna send it to you right now.
When was the last time that Louis Dangoor has an unexpressed thought?
Ever. Imagine if Twitter. Basically. He said that it was legit one of the most insane things he'd ever seen in a ring, and basically it was and don't get me wrong, impressive would have been a more fitting word. Like it was pretty impressive what happened.
I just sent it to you.
It was a gorilla press. Was it Wesley to the outside through a table? It is a great spot, right? But most insane thing he's ever seen. Louis.
And the meme basically, I don't know if Alex is gonna upload it or not, but basically it was.
What did you do? Did you WhatsApp?
I said, WhatsApped it to. Basically, Louis in 2020, when Brian Cage did a similar spot to Darby Allin onto the stage, Louis said this was a stupid bump to take and was completely unnecessary. And then fast forward to this spot with Von Wagner and Wes Lee, he says one of the most insane things I've ever seen in a wrestling ring. No kidding.
Do you know what? There is something to be said for basically living on Twitter. There is something to be said for like I am just going to tweet every thought that I ever have, and I will fight to the death on most of them, or I'll delete some of them because I realize they're dumb. Like it's a way. Like it's just. I think it's because I'm older. I think if I was, how old is he? 16. I think if I was 16 when I was doing this, I don't think I'd know. I mean, Fraser Crane always used to say, "If less is more, imagine how much more could be." And I think that's the message.
There's many messages with Louis Dangoor. Many.
I did enjoy him and David Bixen's band today arguing over Ryan Satin's wedding.
No, we don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
I mean, it's just
we will never get through this show if we go into this now.
Stephanie responded to well, not to them. I mean, if Stephanie had responded to Louis, that'd be on his CV. But like, sorry, Alex.
Alex looks like a member of the Dyad.
I have such busy days at work.
Tweet, it is wild.
I've seen it. I have such busy days at work.
What she's saying, even in the story, it's wild.
Even in all context.
Anyway, never mind. Go on. Imagine being that powerful and that famous. You can just say that, and people are like, "That's a great tweet." Banter. Like,
you're the boss, Steph. You're the boss, Steph. Yeah, you know how that goes. The ladder match was won by Wesley, and it featured Carmelo Hayes, Oro Mensah, Von Wagner, the man who chucked him out of the ring, in fact, and Nathan Frazier for the NXT North American Championship, previously vacant. 19 minutes, 17 seconds on the sweet spot for Kenny McIntosh. SB3, I guess the first part of the criteria is in-ring work. So, what did you think, basically?
I really liked the in-ring work. I think it was very exciting. They cut a nice little pace to it. It was very fast paced, kind of spots everywhere. And this is kind of every ladder match I feel in NXT has been trying to replicate the success and the magic of Takeover or New Orleans, and they've all fallen quite short. But I feel like this year, the two ladder matches, the one at Stand and Deliver, and then this one really picked it up. And the highlight for me of this matchup was Nathan Frazier. Nathan Frazier is just so talented, gets so much height on some of his moves. He did like a crossbody off the top rope that was really killer. He did like a reverse Spanish fly at one point on a ladder that was killer. The spot with Von Wagner, that was a nice little spot because that kind of goes into like the story of the matchup. So I loved everything about the in-ring work. So I would say they fit the mold as far as that criteria.
All right. Where else do we need to land on the criteria SP3? I believe we're talking about, if from what I said, basically like the situation, the occasion. I guess it's like a pay-per-view for NXT. It would it be fair to say it stole the show for you?
I mean, it's tough. It's tough. It depends on what you're looking for in a match. I would say that it's either the opener or the main event. The main event triple threat with Braun Breaker, Ilya Dragunov, and JD McDonough. That was a great main event matchup. This, I would say, stole the show, was the best match on the show, but I wouldn't be mad if someone said that the main event stole the show.
JD, don't McGoogle me.
Don't McGoogle me.
Says Kevin Owens. What about storytelling?
Storytelling, it's not much in this with ladder matches. It's usually a spot fest, but they did tell a coherent story with basically the spot with Von Wagner throwing Wesley. That they, commentary kind of added it where they was like basically Wesley was out of the matchup. And that builds his underdog kind of story that he keeps getting kind of pushed back. His whole story of his character is he's been trying to overcome the fact that his best friend had to leave the company and he lost the tag team titles without ever being defeated for it. So it's kind of another setback, another obstacle he had to overcome before winning the match. So that's a coherent story to tell in a ladder match. So I would say it wasn't a high mark for that criteria, but still a decent one.
What would you say about the audience and how they were buying in and how the atmosphere was adding to the match?
That's the highest mark. I would say that I used to really make fun of the CWC crowd. It felt like a crowd that WWE is just putting quarters in everybody's backs and just making them chant whatever they wanted to chant. Hey, you're going to chant for this person. You're going to say this match is awesome because there was a near fall. This felt like genuine reacting to the action. They were reacting to the big moments. They made the big moments bigger and they made the finish feel like it was satisfying. So I think that the audience is actually the biggest benefit that this matchup got.
And what about the finish?
Finish, I loved. I really enjoyed it. I think that Wesley was the right choice to go here because why take off the title off of Carmelo Hayes if you're not going to move on to someone new? If you were just going to go back to Carmelo Hayes, that wouldn't have made any sense. So I really thought it was either going to be Wesley or Nathan Frazier. But I think Wesley, with the story that I told before about him kind of overcoming obstacle after obstacle, the finish I really liked.
Kenny, any thoughts on the matchup? Have you watched it before SP3 passes judgment?
I did watch it. I think it was good. I think the problem that you have with one of these matches, like if you're asking me, I'm just gonna tell you what my rating would be out of it. I'd give it a 3. Not because I think that the action was probably a 4, but like you're in a ladder match. There's been a million ladder matches. Like, what are you gonna do? I mean, it did obviously have the most insane spot that we've ever seen with the Von Wagner, right? But it's like, the New Orleans ladder match, which was that's very funny. That's great. But no, the New Orleans ladder match from 2018, that was almost like the perfect storm of like a bunch of characters in NXT, a lot of them on the rise, and you were just doing it. But now NXT is a different place. It's not really big stars; it's more developmental stars who you're trying to build. But I think, and a 3 is not like a bad thing. I just think if I'm going by all the things that you guys have mentioned as the criteria, I think 3 would be the overall for me.
Yeah, I think you're still higher than average. You got to remember, right? Like to me, 3 or 3.5, I'd be comfortable with, but we're gonna have to, agree with SB3 here to get the final judgment.
He's the judge, jury, next
he is.
Judge, jury.
The Teddy
Remember,
Gordy.
my star rating greater than Dave's. I gave this match my final verdict. Like I said, I really loved the action. The audience was honestly the best part of it. I think they elevated everything. I like the finish, the storytelling. It's a ladder match. It's just gonna be spots mostly. The buildup wasn't really there. I was looking forward to it because of Nathan Frazier and Carmelo Hayes and Wes Lee, but have no interest in Von Wagner and Encino Man. I have no interest in Ora Mensa for now. They haven't gave me a reason to really care about that. So I gave it 3 3/4 stars. So it's very close to a 4-star rating.
That's fair. It's one of them things to me where it's like, in a few months, are we really going to be talking about this match? Right? Like, it's just another ladder match, really, isn't it? Like, it's a good one, don't get me wrong, and there are several good ones, but when we talk about the New Orleans one, which I wouldn't even call that a 5-star, but it's, it's up between 4 and 5, somewhere in that ballpark. Is it in that realm? I don't think it is. So that's kind of the bar that we hold it to. Final stretch of the show now. We're going to get into the mailbag.
Can I just say one thing about the star rating thing that is important to SP3's point? They're really good barometers of what you should rate a match, because if you look at, I'm going to mention Dave. I'm friends with Dave. This is not a we hate Dave Meltzer club. I didn't just sit up to the fuck you part of my t-shirt, by the way, there for any reason. I'm actually trying to sit down in my chair so it doesn't show. I should really thought about that. But anyway, I know people are really angry about the Bayley and Sasha match at Brooklyn, the Undertaker Shawn Michaels WrestleMania match not getting 5 stars. The thing is, what Dave Meltzer cares about the most is in-ring action. That's all he really cares about. The problem that he has, I think, is that, for example, he rated the Chris Jericho Nick Gage match 4 stars or something. It was high.
Yeah.
And he'd said in his radio show he thought it was bad. But the crowd were what gave it a 4 stars. I do just want to point out, for hypocrisy purposes, that he rated Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3 a dud. Which is arguably the greatest crowd reaction. To me, you have to put that at least a 2 based on the crowd. The crowd should be so high that any sort of bad action should be counteracted. So I think the good thing about Sid's criteria is you're taking everything into account, so that if something isn't high enough in the in-ring action, it's not going to get lost.
Yeah, it's all encompassing. It's meant to be. To me, I think maybe the greatest match, just for what the dynamic of a wrestling match is probably Rock and Hogan, right? In terms of having people in the palm of their hands, the stage, it actually living up to expectations and all of this sort of thing. You could make an argument that is the greatest match ever, because everybody has just stood there kind of in awe of what's transpiring. How many times does that actually happen in pro wrestling? Same thing, right? How many times? I don't even know what Dave gave Shane versus Vince at WrestleMania 17, but I've said this to Kenny before. One of my favorite matchups. Seriously, I say
literally
that.
My top 5 of all time.
I think he gave it a high 3.
I say this deadly serious. I think that's one of my all-time faves. The amount of layered storytelling in that match is unbelievable. The way everything ties in, it's fantastic.
And also, see any of these people. If you're one of these people, right? Fuck you and all that you stand for. These people who go, do you know what you should do? You should watch Rock and Hogan without the sound on. Who the fuck?
Yeah,
does that?
Why?
Go to the gig and wear earphones, and do you still get the atmosphere of the song? Well, no, because I'm not you can't take away one of the same.
That's like saying you should watch Omega and Okada with a blindfold.
Yeah, it's the same. If it really gets you so butthurt that people think Rock and Hogan is a classic and they didn't do much, it's even more impressive because they were so good that they didn't have to do a lot.
Yeah.
Watch it without the sound off. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
Sorry,
no,
you said.
No, I'm with Team Kenny there. Sorry, that's a terrible shout. Whoever says that.
It's like a big thing online. It's like, if you just watch that without the sound on, it's actually not that great. Well, of course it's not. You've got the fucking sound off.
If you just take their legs away, they're not very good footballers, basically. Let's get into the final stretch here, the mailbag. Those in the live chat, if you want to send in an ultra chat or just have a comment that you want us to address, feel free to get involved right now. I'm just going to troll back through Twitter to look at some of the questions, but one that I do know off the top of my head is that somebody did ask Kenny, are plans afoot for the next Inside the Ropes live shows?
It's difficult. I think we will probably, if he wants to, I think we will probably try and bring Regal to London. That is a plan I would like to do. And it's difficult because basically you can't do anything who's in WWE because they're in WWE. AEW is challenging because they have still not done a show in the UK in October 2022. If I hear the words Craven fucking Cottage one more time in my fucking life, I don't care. WWE have literally ran 3 tours. Beyonce is going to have done a full UK tour in stadiums before Tony Khan has got his mob over, and he owns somewhere here. It's wild. We're going to be starved of seeing CM Punk wrestle in the UK because he couldn't get his fucking act together in time. So that is annoying. What was the question?
When is your next ITR show, Kenny?
Regal, hopefully again. But apart from that, it's difficult because, we're in a wrestling war where companies are paying wrestlers massive amounts of money. It's just not viable for me to pay that at certain times. So there will be tours. There's going to be more tours, obviously. It's just I need to be more wary of how I do them. Maybe we bring Brett back. Brett always does well. Brett's always good. People always love seeing Brett.
I've never met Brett. Let me come.
There you go. I don't know how there's still people who have not met Brett. My mum has met Brett. Everyone's met Brett. But so that's the plan at the moment. Apart from that, there's not anything set in stone. But I would imagine there will be something. There'll be something in the first quarter of next year for sure.
To be totally transparent, Kenny and I have discussed going to an AEW show perhaps together next year. That is something that we will to look at. And Mania in Los Angeles is again on the to-do list. So I'm hoping, Kenny and I, we did manage to do something in Cardiff, but due to just the way it unfolded with me leaving TalkSport, it became difficult. So it wasn't maybe what we wanted it to be, but I feel like without, not making any promises or anything, but there's potential for us to do things, Kenny, with the access between us and these trips.
100%.
So, people can look out for that. If you don't see them in person, they'll be on Inside the Ropes. That's what you can always guarantee. What is also asked here by John Jeffries. Do you guys think Alba Fire is main roster bound? Halloween Havoc seemed the perfect time to put the title on her and have Mandy's reign come to an end. Mandy's reign refuses to end, SB3. For whatever reason that is. We all know that, I always go to call her by her other name. Alba Fire is, you could plug her in pretty much to the main roster now and you're going to get good matchups, right? It's just, what are NXT looking to do? You can't stifle her, I guess, by keeping her underneath Mandy after she's already challenged for the throne. So what would you do?
I think it probably is about time that she goes to the main roster. I think that she's always been very talented, even since the days I saw her on the independent scene. And I think the Alba Fire character gives her somewhat of a character that she kind of needed to probably, make that transition up to the main roster. And that's what NXT's for, is to test out these characters to see if they're ready. It's just about, is it the right time for the main roster for Alba Fire to come up. She's ready. There's no question about that. I just think do they have the right story or the right push for her to get called up to the main roster? I 100% disagree with the other half of that statement, though. It did not feel like it was going to be a title change. I'm sorry. It don't feel like Mandy Rose title reign. No one feels hot enough or like has the momentum enough for her to lose to. They can go back to maybe Roxanne Perez and maybe she can have that momentum, but Alba Fire, it didn't feel like it to me. She dominated too much of the buildup where I was like, oh, we're just going to get a finish where Toxic Attraction distracts her. She loses to the best V trigger in the business today. Since Kenny's not working, it's Mandy Rose.
I am out right now. I'm still injured, but when I come back,
it is a great V trigger. I will not hear anything against that. Mandy Rose has got that one particular thing on lock. I mean, Kaylee Ray, to be fair, her whole thing was just, I'm really good in NXT UK. It was just like, you can't beat me. There wasn't much else to her character. Kenny, what do you think, man? Do you think plug her into the main roster now?
Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go. I think there's various things you could do. You could get her and Nikki Cross to become a team and get her to kind of get the Nikki ASH thing out of the way.
Well, like a Scottish trios, or do we
Scottish Damage Control?
It's not a bad idea. Like it's not.
I mean,
so yeah, I think you could do that. I mean, I just don't see, even in the Triple H era. I mean, the thing is, like, Damage Control are not setting the world on fire. I don't know when we're allowed to say that.
Oh, you just fulfilling my soul. I've been saying this for weeks. Damage Nexus. They are Nexus.
I mean, I don't feel that bad.
We made this point last week, very much so.
It feels very much like SummerSlam 2010, and all we're getting tonight is Hell in a Cell 2010 that not a lot of people remember, that Wade Barrett beat John Cena in a singles match, but you don't remember that 10 years later.
Oh, do you remember when he became Juan Cena?
Yes.
On house shows.
Yes.
Good time.
This will be her Barrett moment. She'll beat beat Bianca tonight, and maybe even win the title at Crown Jewel. But to me, it's gonna feel too little, too late.
I can't wait till she wins the title on a big T-shirt. Don't even start me. But the thing is, I think with Alba Fire, I think that she would be good to start on a team. I mean, Alex, that's a you question, not me.
If it's not, give the people what they want, Kenny. Get Louis in the hot seat.
Look, I tell you what, I'll go to Louis. I'll go with Louis to Witherspoons one day, and we'll put one of those things where we put like, here's our table number. We'll sit there for 2 hours. If you turn up, we'll have a drink with you.
Virgil numbers. Absolutely.
You did better than that. You get 2 people.
Nah.
Because one of the fun, I've said this before, broken record, but I don't care. I remember the War Games that Kaylee Ray was in when she was Kaylee Ray. And I was sitting watching it. It was late, obviously. I wasn't thinking about it. And the announcer went, from Johnston, Scotland. I was like, oh my God, somebody from Johnston is getting announced in a War Game.
Johnston?
This is wild. Johnston is a shithole. I mean, so is Glasgow. But Scotland's a shithole. But, you know.
I mean, apart from Berwick, which is technically England, but, you know.
Oh God, let's not make it a race war.
My grand's from there.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh God damn it. Last question is actually from Matty, who says, when are we going to get Hulk on screen? We're not the real Hulk. This is not the, you know.
Okay, I'll go get him.
Here he comes. Listen, what a dog. SP3 man, before we wrap it up here, do you want to tell the people while Kenny gets the dog, what are you doing in the next week?
I'll be over on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. You can see me over there on Thursday, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time, reviewing AEW Dynamite with Jimmy Macaram on AE Ramble, and True Hill Heat podcast on Saturday is actually going to be special guest, someone you might know. It's going to be Sat E Day. It will be Sat E Nyangi joining us on True Hill Heat on Saturday.
So he is allowed on other YouTube shows. The lying bastard.
Hey, I don't know how I worked it, but Hulk is here.
Look at that.
This is Hulk. You say hi?
You know how wholesome this show is, that we've had kids, dogs. We've got everything. Everything here.
He's livid. Absolutely livid.
He looks very tame. He's just
very
like,
high maintenance.
He's just like Yes, Dad. All right.
This is his grimy sheep that he uses.
Yeah. I liked it. I liked it. He brought it in with him.
Oh, he has to go through. You want to say anything? No, nothing. He has nothing to offer.
Is he a kisser, Kenny? If you go close to his face, is he a licker or is he not?
No, he'll never lick you. Like once in a
Really?
blue moon, you can earn it.
Look at him, scurrying out there. What a dog! What a glorious dog. With that, we're going to start bringing things to a close here. So, Kenny, have you got a question you'd like to bestow upon SB3 and myself to close?
Oh, is it a shag, marry, kill? Okay,
it is.
Give me an era that you want. Give me a company. Give me an era.
WWE this side of the millennium.
Okay, actually, I've got it.
All right.
And you're going to have to pick. You're being transported to 2001.
So
you are in
13.
the Houston Astrodome. They all walk backstage. There's a hotel room with one of them. There's a wedding chapel with one of them. There's a gun in your hand for the other one. Mick Foley, Linda McMahon, and Vince McMahon.
Oh.
Okay. I think this is easy.
Go on in. You get out the traps.
It's a fairly easy one. No, let me rethink this because I was going to do something.
For a second, by the way, I thought Matty was trying to you know how like MILF and stuff.
Is he wanking while he's typing?
Dog I want to fuck, but then he did correct himself. So
there you go. I'm going to kill Vince McMahon. I think for everyone, I think that's the best move.
There are a lot of paralegals out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of paralegals. Everyone's safe. I'm gonna kill Vince McMahon. I'm gonna shag Mick Foley.
Right. Now let's get into detail.
Yes.
Give me the scenario.
Mick Foley is not only a gentle lover, he's a hardcore lover. So he's the best of both worlds. You got to have that type of balance if you're going to pick a correct partner. Like the last time, I picked Moxley because he's willing to, go into some dirty places. So same thing with Foley, and he's going to be polite. He's going to make sure that I come first. And I'm going to marry.
Are you going to be on top or are you going to be on the bottom for this scenario?
Yeah. You're a small guy, man. I feel like Foley's going to roll you around.
This is true. He might have to take the dominant position. And I'm gonna marry Linda McMahon because even after the marriage is over, I know she's gonna keep my secrets. That's a good woman.
That is a good woman. Listen, I got a good answer here, right? I am gonna fuck Vince McMahon, right? Hear me out. Vince is getting the pipe.
He getting a payday. He getting a payday, y'all.
You've nicknamed it.
Listen, Vince is getting it because he would hate it.
Oh yeah. Vince, well, he would love to do it to you, but he would not like you do it.
He's not getting that. He's not getting that. I am laying it, right? That's it. Vince would hate that. He would hate it. And then to cap it off, I then marry Linda, which means I'm marrying my way into WWE, right? I've not only fucked him, I've also got his company now, right? I just buy a byproduct of me making sure that I get into WWE. Mick Foley's got to die. And nobody wants it, but he has to die, I'm afraid. Just so that the timelines arrange, less women are fondled by Vince McMahon, and I'm running WWE. It's a better world. Mick Foley died for good cause.
I have asked that question on planes, on trains, for years, and that is one of the best answers I've ever heard for that.
There you go. Don't say you don't get good value of SB3 and I ever.
Very well done.
SB3, have you got one for Kenny? Do you want to spitball some names?
Oh,
I'm not spitballing here. Don't you be adding extra curriculum on?
you pick an era, Kenny.
Yeah.
Give me WCW in the late 90s.
Ooh,
Lex Luger.
No. Okay. I think I know the members. Okay. Shag, marry, kill. 3 count.
Oh.
Gregory Helms, Shannon Moore, and not Evan Courageous. Tank Abbott.
Tank Abbott.
Oh God! Right, let me just get them on Google here again. No,
You
because
said late night?
I need to see what they look like at the time. So who's? So it's Evan Courageous. No, he's not in it.
No, he's not in it. It's
So
Gregory
Shane
Helms.
Shannon
You
Moore.
can't kill Shane Helms. You can't. You just can't.
I mean, there has never been an easier kill in my life than Tank Abbott. I mean, I went through my entire adult life with daddy types trying to come on to me. I'm not into I don't have a dad, but I also don't have any daddy issues. I don't want it. Keep your hairy, everything to yourself. I'm not into it. Keep it away. You must die. Tank Abbott. So then I'm left with Shane Helms and Shannon Moore.
It's two very slender, pretty boy types, isn't it? Eh?
I mean,
Exactly.
they're both going to be very bland at this point. You know, it's like two unseasoned pieces of chicken.
I think Gregory Helms is funny, personally. But there you go.
I think I'm probably going to have to shag Shannon Moore. And it would be me to him, not the Shannon Moore's not getting inside me. That ride is not open, I promise you. Yeah, Shannon Moore. That would be that one, and then I would marry Shane Helms because, you know, if I decide to stop doing my job, and I'm assuming at this point in 2001 or 1999, I have inside ropes, whatever. He's going to be working WWE. He's going to be. And you know, now and then you go, do you know what? Put the mask on tonight. On you go, Shane. Get the mask on. Stand back. Okay.
You want to find out why they call him Sugar Shane Helms.
Tremendous.
Yeah, who knew me and Shane Helms would be married by the end of the episode?
Who knew it? But thank God it happened. Can I help you?
You're Mick Foley.
What? I told these run-ins have to stop, young lady. Get out of it. All right, I'll come charge it in a minute.
Okay.
Hit the bricks. Quickly! Get out of it. ITR clips, guys. You know what it is. Every
No. You can't just.
Of course you can.
Parent secondary wise, and then just go into a plug.
Very smooth. I'm very experienced.
Smooth transition.
Every Monday, 8 p.m. here, ITR Clips. You know what the deal is. Monday Night Live, SB3 will always be by my side. And every couple of weeks, you'll get the lovely bonus of Kenny McIntosh joining us as well. We are going to keep these segments going. We're going to be hopefully getting some guests on in the near future. We might have some live interviews as well. You have to keep your eyes peeled. Until then, make sure you follow my good friends on social media. I do believe you'll be seeing a lot of that in the chat right now. Thank you, Nightbot, for doing what you do so well. And we will see you not next Monday. Well, no, it will be next Monday. I go on holiday the day after, and then we miss the Monday after that. So there will be a Halloween edition when I'm finished trick-or-treating, and we will see you then. So thank you very much for joining us here on Monday Night Live. I'm Alex McCarthy. The handsome man's Kenny McIntosh, and SB3 completes this all-star ensemble. Good night.